Hi, this is Tom Wolff in Western Massachusetts, and I'm delighted to be the discussant of this panel. I'm sorry I couldn't be there live. And I've seen the summaries of the presentations that you just heard, and I know you've heard of intriguing ideas, research, and interventions. And I'd like to take this discussion time to challenge the difference between the phrase civic engagement to advance social change from the reality of what happens on the ground in exchanges between universities and communities. 30 years ago, I used to say that the relationship between the university and the community was simply exploitive. Because from the community point of view, which is where I was working, you'd see the university come in to do research, and it was never clear that the community got very much out of it. That's changing, and I think these presentations illustrate that it's gone a long way away from pure exploitation. Excuse me. However, the question is, what would authentic civic engagement and participation look like between a university and community? How do we define it? Where have we seen it? How do we promote it? This is an old question for me. When I worked in the Healthy Communities movement, I wrote a piece for the National Civic Review entitled The Healthy Communities Movement, A Time for Transformation, where I noted that the general failure of the Healthy Communities coalitions to actually provide authentic civic engagement in their community efforts. It was mainly agency people talking to other agency people. As I worked more with a wide range of community collaboratives, I found the same phenomenon. I wrote a critique of the very popular collective impact coalition model, and I critiqued it for being a formalized top-down model that eliminates not only community power, but almost any civic engagement. It was called 10 Places Where Collective Impact Gets It Wrong. That led to a collaboration effort with colleagues in community psychology, Brian Christians included, public health, political science, community organizing, social work, to write a piece called Collaborating for Equity and Justice. And one principle in that paper was residents have equal power in determining the agenda and the resource allocation in the collaborative. And so I'd suggest that this principle be part of an emerging definition of authentic civic engagement. How do we know what's authentic civic engagement? I always relied on Sherry Ornstein's ladder participation as a starting point. She differentiates between non-participation, tokenism, and citizen control. So we can ask, do university community partnerships actually produce citizen control? Arthur Himmelman suggests a continuum of collaboration that goes from networking to coordination to cooperation and ultimately to collaboration, where the partners enhance the capacity of the other. So we could ask, in university community partnerships, are we really enhancing the capacity of the other? Is the community really gaining in this exchange? In recent years, I stumbled on such an example when I worked with Rachel Lucy on her PhD thesis at Antioch entitled Amplifying Community Voice in Multi-Sector Collaboration. This has not been published yet. She described the Healthy Gorge Initiative in the state of Washington, which was fascinating. And it does illustrate a collaboration with authentic power, which sits with those with lived experience. Not only do those with lived experience have the majority of votes on resource allocation, there's also an authentic warmth and caring among the participants, both from the formal sector and those in the lived experience, because when one of the members of the coalition from the lived experience died, there were many members of the coalition who attended the funeral. That's quite unusual. I was heartened to know that such examples are out there. Let us all find and write about such examples as we find them. We need to meet the big challenge of showing where and how university community partnerships lead to authentic civic engagement, where residents have the power to set the agenda and allocate the resources. Just as racial justice and decoloniality advocates have challenged community psychology, so does authentic civic engagement create such a challenge. Thank you, and I open this up for your comments.